back to Life in Print with me, Leonie, or welcome if you're new. So today is my big April book haul. It's not quite as big as March, but it's still fairly big because I just can't help buying more books. So I don't want it to drag on for too long, so I'm going to get straight into it with the books that I've bought in the past month. The first book that I bought is The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. Now this is a book that has been debating whether to go onto my TBR or not for a while now, and I finally decided to take the plunge and buy it purely because it was part of the buy one get one half price in Waterstones, and also the book that I'd originally gone in for wasn't in stock and I didn't really want to wait for it because I wanted to do my haul today. So this is about some people who are historical figures on the cusp of the 20th century, where they're sort of moving into modernity but also still kind of on the cusp of believing in magic and folklore, and they go on the trail of a mythological creature called the Essex Serpent. To Hold the Bridge by Garth Nix. This is a book that should have been on last month's haul but ended up on this one because I was waiting for it to come from America and it took a little bit longer than I thought. It is a book I've read before, and it is a collection of short stories including an Old Kingdom novella and a collection of other stories, anything from sort of vampires to other mythological and fantasy creatures. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte is a story that we will all be familiar with. Jane, the sort of poor, plain governess, ends up falling in love with the enigmatic Mr. Rochester until she finds out he has a crazy wife in his attic. I already own a leather-bound copy of Jane Eyre, but I wanted to get this copy because I went to Haworth, which is the Bronte parsonage, which was a fantastic experience last Bank Holiday Monday, and I picked up this because I just thought the cover was really cool. It's sort of got like a gothic element to it, and as I love gothic fiction, it just really appealed to me. This was another of my purchases from Haworth. It's from the same collection as the Jane Eyre, and of course it tells the story of Heathcliff and Cathy and their destroying, destructive, harrowing, obsessive, whatever you want to call what their love was, but it is my favourite classic, and like Jane Eyre it has a really cool sort of gothic front cover, so I just had to get it. My third and final purchase from Haworth was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. It's one of my favourite of the Bronte's books, along with Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, and I've been looking for a nice copy of it, so this is one of the really nice, you'll probably have seen them in Waterstones, the nice hardback copies of the classics. I think Anne is such an underrated Bronte sister because Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights kind of overshadow everything else, but The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is great. It's sort of a mix between Bronte and Austen, if you like, and I really very much recommend it. The Strings of Murder by Oscar de Muriel. This is the first in a series that I've actually read the second and third of without reading the first. And it's about two detectives in Scotland, Frey and McGray, and it's really funny. Well, the series is, I don't know about this one as obviously I've not read it yet, but the series up to now has been really funny, really engaging. It's got that Victorian kind of crime element to it as well, and I'm really looking forward to reading the first one, even though I've sort of read them backwards. Wayfaring Stranger by James Lee Burke. I got this in this month's Book and a Brew box, and it is a sort of thriller slash potentially like a sci-fi supernatural thing. It talks about spirits in the synopsis, so I'm not sure if it just means the idea of the spirit or whether it means the spirit's involved, and it's also got Bonnie and Clyde in it to go along with Book and a Brew's cinematic theme for this month, so I'm really intrigued to get into this one and see what it's all about. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstein. Now I bought this because I heard it mentioned a lot around the time that Caraval came out, and I sort of thought it sounded around the same themes and I'd probably like it. So the idea is that a circus comes unexpectedly to town and sort of mysterious things happen around that, and I have heard that it is a lot better than Caraval, which fills my heart with joy because I didn't really enjoy Caraval, but that is for my wrap up, not for my book haul. Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. This has been on my TBR for a little while now, so I picked it up as a second-hand copy from eBay this month. It's about a boy who stays in an attic room and loses himself in fairy tales and fantasy stories until they actually start to become real. It made me think quite a lot of The Neverending Story, which is one of my favourites, so I'm quite looking forward to getting into that and seeing if it is as good. 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. So I bought this book because there's been so much hype around the Netflix show. I haven't watched the show yet, but I thought the book's not very thick. I will give it a go. If I enjoy it, then I may check out the show after. Basically, I'm just being awkward. I don't want to get hyped on the show before I've read the book. Winter Song by S.J. Jones. This is about a girl called Lizel whose sister is kidnapped by a goblin king and she has to go on a journey to find her. I'm really intrigued to get into this one. It's another one that's been on my TBR for a couple of months now and I've been looking forward to buying it. I think it could be definitely an author to watch if it is as good as what I think it will be. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So this is a quite famous tale that falls into the classic genre, very similar to Jane Eyre, except this is more the spirit of the dead wife that lingers, not necessarily in a haunting way like with ghosts, but just in the way that all the staff still love their old mistress. They're not happy to accept the new young wife, and this is a gorgeous hardback copy of it that I picked up from Waterstones. The Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This has not been on my TBR. It was an unexpected purchase, to be honest. I've kept seeing it on Waterstones website as like their book of the month, and I was sort of like, I didn't know if it sounded a bit too young, whether it was like the cusp of young adult to being sort of for younger children, but I had, my Waterstones card was full, I had £10 to spend, so I chose a different book and got this one half price with it, so I literally paid £1.38 for this book, so I'm going to give it a try. I See You by Claire McIntosh. This has been on my to read list for quite a while since I read about it in Writers Magazine. It's a crime thriller and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. The Brontes by Juliet Barker. Now this is an absolute tomb of a book and it's non-fiction as well. I bought this basically because, as I mentioned before, I went to Haworth this month. I've always had a big interest in the Bronte sisters and I've watched a lot of shows about them, but I thought, you know, why not actually try a book about them? So I did some research and this seems to be the biggest, definitely, and best book about them. It supposedly covers a lot more than other biographies, so I am going to give that a try, although I may end up reading it in a few sittings. So the only other book is Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, which is the much anticipated second novel, but not a follow-on sequel from the author of The Girl on the Train, so I'm really interested to see what that'll be like as well. So that's the end of my April book haul. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed filming it. I do love showing off the new books that I've bought, and I hope that some of them have appealed to other people as well. Also, at the moment, I'm looking for recommendations around the YA fantasy sort of genres, so it would be great if people could leave comments and tell me their favourites, and if I've not read them already, I'll be sure to check them out. So thank you for visiting me again today, and I will see you next time.